Well, thanks everyone. It's good to be here for today's announcement, and I'm really excited to be joined by Charles Lavaseur, Regional Manager at the Neil Squire Society, and Randy Dickinson, Chair of the Premier's Council on Disabilities. When our government assumed office, we knew that we had a significant challenge to overcome in relation to our workforce. As I've stated many times before, there are a significant number of workers leaving our workforce due to retirement over the next decade. And that's why we embarked on a new mission to ensure that our labor market demands are being met, and at the same time, we leave no New Brunswicker behind who wants to work. 2.5 years ago, we announced the launch of Working New Brunswick, a new model for workforce development that was designed to be nimble and get measurable results. And even despite a global pandemic, a lot of success has been accomplished over the last number of years. A key component of Working New Brunswick and the model is to empower individuals, employers, and regional partnerships through creative interventions and meaningful support. We said many times that what works in one part of the province might not work in the other end of the province. What works in one area might not work there 2 years from now. COVID taught us that what works in January might not be what works in April. That's why we had to be nimble. Working New Brunswick is not just about filling jobs. It's about embracing change and being adequately prepared to support new and emerging job sectors. At the end of the day, when our people are working and our businesses are working, New Brunswick as a whole is working. A little over a year ago, we announced that service contracts through the Department of Post-Secondary Education, Training and Labor would be done so in a new approach, one focused on long-term performance-based agreements. Taking this approach provides funding stability that helps service providers to improve their ability to budget and plan, resulting in being able to better retain, train, engage, and build capacity amongst their staff. It also reduces the amount of time spent on administration, which frees up valuable time to focus on clients. Overall, both of these initiatives are designed to help us help more New Brunswickers. And continuing in that theme is why we're here today. An important piece of employment services at Working New Brunswick is to provide persons with a disability a pathway to employment. There are many New Brunswickers with a disability who want to work. However, sometimes there are barriers to securing employment, and we need to work together to tear those barriers down once and for all. As of 2017, it was estimated that nearly 110,000 working-age New Brunswickers had one or more disabilities here in New Brunswick. If we want to address our workforce shortages, we need everyone who wants to participate the pathway to do so. Previously, the department managed contracts with more than 20 external service providers, which resulted in service delivery inconsistencies, gaps, and quite frankly, significant bureaucracy. I have said many times before that we wasted too much time as a province. We wasted the time of disability organizations that were doing great work, trying to justify their existence each and every year to come up with a proposal to get their funding. And we needed more long-term funding in place with performance-based agreements. For those reasons, we knew that we needed to find a better way. And last year, I brought a group of stakeholders together with our department, and we asked our service providers who know best to present us an option that would result in better employment services for people with disabilities. I'm proud to say that not only did they step up to the plate, they hit a home run. At this point, I'd like to announce a new model for delivering employment services to people living with a disability. And I believe very strongly what they've worked on in conjunction with government will make us leaders in this country. This new model eliminates the short-term contracts previously that we had with each of the service providers and allows us to have a long-term, 5-year, performance-based agreement with a new co-op, Avenue, New Brunswick. The contract is based on outcome indicators through a pay-for-performance approach. The outcomes are improved and increased access to services and employment and education opportunities across the province, increased disability-specific support services from a variety of agencies, partnerships with employers to build more inclusive workplaces, and the provision of support shared services and contract management to all agencies. The new approach will result in more streamlined and consistent service delivery across all regions within the province, helping more persons with a disability join the workforce in a more timely manner. This will in turn help businesses meet their labor demands. Funding for Avenue, New Brunswick will be reallocated from existing funds that are currently distributed through PEDAL and are approximately $12 million annually for the next 5 years. Integrating as many people as possible into our workforce is critical to the province's success, and we need to ensure that all groups are contributing to our labor force, including unrepresented groups such as those with a disability. I'm incredibly proud of where we arrived today, and I'm confident our leaders in providing services to persons with disability have the right to lead our efforts in the future. I want to thank all the service providers in our province, and I know that there's a lot of folks joining us online today listening to this important announcement. I want to thank all of the service providers for their leadership historically. I want to thank them for their leadership over the last year in building a world-class model that we're going to have here in New Brunswick, and we will all work hard to make sure that Avenue, New Brunswick has the success that they need to tear more of those barriers down than ever before. So folks, without further ado, I want to turn things over to Charles Lavaseur, the interim chair of Avenue, New Brunswick, to say a few words on behalf of their organization.
Thank you, Minister Older. We are proud to have created Cooperative Avenue NB Cooperative, a collaboration between 22 professional agencies that work with persons with a disability to provide people with training, tools, support, and opportunities they may require to find fulfilling jobs within the New Brunswick labor market. Established as a nonprofit, Cooperative Avenue NB Cooperative will create formal connections between member agencies to ensure their shared knowledge base will be brought to bear on employment services for persons with a disability. Grâce à la collaboration, Coopération Avenue.
Thanks to collaboration, Cooperative Avenue NB Coop, a non-for-profit will see to it that all employment services are offered to people with a disability in all regions in both official languages.
From each of our 22 agencies in achieving their employment goals. Plus d'un quart de tous les Néo-Brunswick.
Over a quarter of all New Brunswickers have a disability. Exactly 26.7%, the second highest rate of disability in the country.
Have disabilities. 26%, to be exact, is the figure. The second highest rate of disability in the country. Only 55% of working age were shown to be employed. That means that almost half of all New Brunswickers with a disability are unemployed, and that is quite frankly unacceptable. Près de la moitié de tous les Néo-Brunswickois et Néo-Brunswickoises ayant.
That means that almost half of New Brunswickers with a disability are unemployed, and that is quite frankly unacceptable.
22 agences professionnelles qui travaillent avec des personnes en situation de handicap afin de.
we are proud to have created Cooperative Avenue NB Cooperative, a collaboration between 22 professional agencies that work with persons with a disability to provide people with training, tools, support, and opportunities they may require to find fulfilling jobs within the New Brunswick labor market.
Committees. These volunteers spent countless hours over the last years to get the new project off the ground. We would also like to thank Working NB and the Minister for their continued support as we work in partnership on improving the life of New Brunswick with disabilities. Thank you. I'll pass that on to Randy.
Good morning. I just want to say on behalf of the Premier's Council on Disabilities that this is a very, very exciting initiative. It's very consistent with the new Disability Action Plan, putting a focus on employment for persons with disabilities. Too many people with disabilities who want to work and can work have not yet been connected to the labor market. And the minister already pointed out, we have a stressed labor market in New Brunswick, and it's really exciting that we're going to create more opportunities through this initiative to place more people with different disabilities in real work for real pay. And that's what changes people's lives, having an income to live their lives with dignity and to be able to afford the things they need day to day, transportation, housing, a good diet, a good place to live, and all of that is possible through the employment opportunities. I want to thank the minister personally because along with this particular initiative, he's been a champion and supporter of disability employment for a long time, and the officials in his department have worked hard to be creative in trying to come up with this new structure that should provide more accountability, more predictable funding for the community agencies that deliver employment services, and more important, increase the actual real number of job placements for people with different disabilities in New Brunswick. I want to thank as well the many different community agencies who've been in the front lines for years working on employment services for people with disabilities, but this new structure will enhance communication and information sharing. It will allow them to plan long-term on their finances and administrative processes so that this will free up, as the minister said, more time to actually deliver hands-on supports to individuals with different disabilities. When you meet a stranger, usually the first question you ask after you find out the name is, what do they do for a living? Well, this initiative is going to enable more people with disabilities to be able to answer that question with telling about the job that they have that pays a real wage for real work. There may be some people with disabilities that will be able to do regular part-time work, and there will be also a lot more who will be able to do regular full-time work. But the essence of this initiative will be to do job matching, to put the right job in connection with the right person, with the right skills, the right background, the right training, to make it a successful enterprise. And there are all kinds of techniques and different skills and different accommodations that can be made possible if people just know what the options are to help enable that person with whatever disability they have to be a good employee for that employer. The research shows clearly that once people with disabilities get jobs, they are very loyal to their employer because they've had a challenge in finding a job in the first place, so there's low turnover. They have no higher rate of accidents, no higher rate of sick time, and all of the myths and stereotypes about why some employers have not hired people with disabilities in the past, thinking that if they fire them for not being able to do the job, that they're going to have a human rights complaint. Well, actually, the rules are the same for people with disabilities as employees as they are for other employees. So, Minister, I really want you to pass on to the officials in the department and also to the partners that you've created with the community agencies that this structure, this initiative, from my many years of experience as a disability advocate, has the potential to be a game changer, has the potential to significantly increase the real number of people with disabilities getting real jobs. And for that, I want to thank you very much, and good luck and best wishes as we work out the details of the governance and the operational structure of the new co-op. And I'm excited and happy, and very happy to be here today to share in this announcement. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks, everyone. And look, to Charles and Randy, thanks for being here today, and thanks for your leadership, both of you, over the last number of years in this province. And I believe that this will create an opportunity for all of us to row in the same direction, and so that the left hand knows what the right hand's doing. We have a better coordinated approach to the way that we deal with employment services for people with disabilities. And at the end of the day, as I've said many times here this morning, we're going to continue to tear more barriers down than ever before. And that's what this has been about. And as I said a minute ago, we gave the challenge that we would be there to support, but we needed those that understood delivering these services the best to put together a model. And you hit a home run. And I think you really need to be commended for that. And look, on that note, we're open to take any questions. Let's get on with it. We really do have an opportunity to be national leaders in our approach to the way that we're going to deliver services here in New Brunswick. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. That concludes today's announcement. Voilà qui met fin à l'annonce d'aujourd'hui. Merci. We'll now proceed with questions from the media. Each reporter will have one question and one brief follow-up. You can ask your question in the language of your choice. Nous allons maintenant procéder aux questions des journalistes. Chaque journaliste peut poser une question. Vous pouvez poser votre question dans la langue de votre choix.
Yeah. Statistics were startling. 45% of people with disabilities in New Brunswick don't have employment. That's huge. And the numbers overall are large. You mentioned these are performance-based contracts. Are there any goals the government has set for ensuring more people with disabilities get jobs?
Yeah, we basically, in terms of the action plans that we set out for people with the disabilities coming in, we want to double those efforts. And we want to see that progress over the next 5 years. At the end of the and we're starting with a baseline of about I think it's around 570 some. We can get you these numbers, John, and that are currently being serviced. We want to double that. People coming in the door and getting that kind of service. And quite frankly, I'm serious when I say that before we created this whole new approach of working New Brunswick, and you and I have talked about that, John, in some other areas where we have a much more targeted approach, a much more performance-based approach where we actually want to get results. And for far too long in this province, we were doing things based on a 1970s model where we had a really high unemployment rate, and government after government, regardless of political stripe, created programs with all the right intentions, but we were wasting time trying to fit New Brunswickers into those programs and around those criteria instead of just creating opportunities like this where we spend more time getting resources into the hands of organizations that can actually get us those real results. And every year we would sign contracts, maybe they'd be for a year, maybe they'd be for 2 years, but 6 months to a year in, they'd be spending their time trying to figure out how they were going to apply for funding for next year, as opposed to just having everybody focused, knowing that they've got, that they have consistent staff dealing with helping New Brunswickers and not worry about it. And that's why and I'll give you a really good example. Last year, we signed one of the first performance-based agreements with the Learning Exchange in St. John. And I'll get you the numbers, but not only did they hit their targets, they exceeded their targets. Because they haven't been spending the last year worrying about when their funding's going to come. We signed a 5-year agreement with them. So that is exactly what we're trying to do here, and have this much more coordinated so that we don't have one agency doing the same thing as another agency. They work through the co-op, and we have a much more focused, targeted approach to it. But yeah, we need to at least double the number of people coming through the door that we're actually servicing and getting them on a path to employment.
And just as a follow-up, Randy, you seem very pleased with this announcement. Why has it taken so long for something like this to happen for people with disabilities? It seems like it's an area of neglect over a long period.
Well, there's been a number of initiatives over the years on promoting employment for people with disabilities, and they've had a certain amount of success, especially in the last 5 to 10 years. The numbers have started to creep up finally. And there are other underrepresented groups in the labor market, whether it's visible minorities or women or immigrants or what have you. However, for people with disabilities, there's been a lot of myths and stereotypes about their potential to be employees, and some employers have not taken the time to dig out the contacts with the people who have the technical expertise about how to assist them in providing the necessary supports to make the transition a smooth one for both the employee and for the employer. And these community agencies that are involved in this new initiative have that information and that technical expertise, and will be able to increase the hopefully the number of placements. I give credit though as well to the department as it's a shift in cultural thinking, because unfortunately I'm a political scientist by training, and too many government departments operate on year-to-year budgets and planning between here and the next election. But these systemic issues are big and complex, and the disability community is not a monolithic group. There's so many variations of types of disabilities, levels of disabilities, whether the persons are in a rural area where the employment opportunities may be more limited, or whether they have already had access to post-secondary education and have skills that are marketable and ready to go with the employers. So these community agencies will be the mechanism to ensure that more people get, as I said earlier, connected with the right job match to the right employer, with the right candidate who has the necessary background and skills despite the disability to fulfill the needs of the employer, because the employer wants to hire people that are going to be an asset to their business or to their enterprise, and the technical abilities and the experience of these community agencies who've been in this field for years will facilitate that. But the great news, as the minister pointed out, now that they have predictable funding on a 5-year cycle, that's going to enable them to spend the time that should have been spent in the past on actually dealing with client direct services and direct services to the employers, as opposed to spending so much time. I can't emphasize the amount of administrative paperwork and time that was devoted to every year packaging up their application for funding. And a lot of the time, by the way, because of bureaucratic delays or whatever, the agency might be halfway through their fiscal year before they finally got the official word. And it's very hard to maintain, good staff who have opportunities to get paid more somewhere else when they don't know next month that they're still going to have a job because the contract might not be renewed. So this is going to fix a lot of those operational barriers for the agencies and community groups that deliver employment services, and that in turn will increase the availability of direct supports for people with disabilities to make the right connection with the right employer.
And if I could just add to that, I think one of the big components to this also is the education that both Working New Brunswick and Avenue New Brunswick both need to provide to potential employers. I think employers need to understand the opportunity that they have to hire someone with a disability. And that's one of those other things that just gets lost, that they don't have time to do because of all this historic administrative time spent and the bureaucracy around what really needs to be done, and it just holds us back. So it all feeds into that whole, it's all part of that culture shift that Randy just referred to there.
Thank you. Global. Silas Brown?
Sure. So as I understand it here, this is less about creating new programming and more about streamlining and stabilizing the existing programming under one agency. Am I understanding that correctly?
So we have about 20-some contracts right now with existing agencies. It's not a coordinated approach. As I said earlier, sometimes the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing. So that's the first thing that Avenue New Brunswick will fix, is that everybody be rowing in the same direction. All of the disability agencies that provide employment services now will be working in unison together. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that we're going to, because we do that, we can provide a long-term funding agreement that'll be performance-based, as I've said many times here before, and as a result of that, free up a whole lot of administrative time, get rid of all that administrative time, quite frankly, and just deal with getting in front of New Brunswickers that need barriers torn down for them. And those are really the two things. And accountability as well. I mean, we need to make sure that we're getting results. And so at the end of the day, it's about making sure that there's coordination, that everybody's rowing in the same direction, that we get rid of all that administrative trouble that we have and the wasting of time, and we get results. Those are really the three things, and we've taken the money that we've spent historically on all of those individual agencies will now be brought together under Avenue New Brunswick.
Okay, so I think a perfect follow-up to that then is to talk a little bit about the organizational and accountability structure. So is it going to be effectively each individual agency will still have their own individual organizational structures that will then report to the overarching agency in Avenue NB, which will then report to you and the deputy minister? Am I understanding that correctly?
So these are agencies that do a number of things for people with disabilities. One of those things is employment services. And that being said, they will have an agreement with us. And yes, it will be the department to monitor whether they're hitting their targets. But I have great confidence in these organizations. I think if we free up their time, we're going to get the results we're looking for. I have complete confidence. And I'll use the example once again of the Learning Exchange in St. John, where not only they hit their targets, they exceeded their targets. And I have complete confidence we're going to get the same results here. But yes, it will be the department that will oversee that. I don't know whether Charles wants to add anything to that, but
Actually, if I would like to. As Minister Holder had mentioned before, it's a coordinated effort, but I like to use the word collaboration. See, in the past, there was no collaboration between the agencies. There might have been a few that would connect from time to time and maybe, utilize some of their expertise. But now, it's cooperative. It is a group of 22 agencies that will tackle the problem together. Right? And it's basically we meet as a group, we operate as a group. Now we all have our own agencies, my organization's not going anywhere, the organization I represent, and all the other 22 agencies will still be around. But as we mentioned, it's the collaboration between those 22 agencies and the fact that we're not competing against each other anymore, which is a big thing. So yeah, red tape is huge. But the way the system was set up in the past, frankly, it was more of a competition than anything else. No more competition, collaboration all the way, and it's going to end up for better service for a person with disability.
And just to clarify though, the performance contracts will still be with the individual agencies, not with Avenue NB Cooperative. Okay.
Thank you. Radio-Canada, Alex Vidal.
Monsieur Levasseur, j'aimerais vous entendre.
I would like to hear you, Mr. Levasseur. You are the president. How do you feel about this new this new position and helping people who need a job. So yes, for the group I represent, we are an organization that works with all the other organizations. Collaboration has always been important to us. We offer services to people with a disability, but we don't offer all the services. So we offer services to break down barriers, but we are not the ones who help them find a job or connect the employees with an employer. So all the agencies have their own specialty, and for us and for all the members around the table, this is what we were missing, because you cannot have an organization that is an expert in everything. That does not exist. There are too many things to do, too much expertise. You cannot spend all your time offering this in all the regions of the province. So we are a small province, but still, we need to have offices everywhere to offer the services to people and being bilingual. So with this new way of working, I believe that the cooperative method has been tested. This is new for us, for our sector, but I believe our plan is good. And we have an extremely dedicated group that will work together. So I feel good about it, and I believe that all the members think the same way. So concretely, what kind of new access will people have to? Well, let's say you are a person with a disability and you go see your agency, the agency you work with. Maybe your agency does not offer all the services. In the past, this person would have transferred to another agency because you couldn't have two agencies working with the same person. It's not a problem anymore. We can have someone go to any agency. There's not a single door that is open to you, and you will have access to all the services. It doesn't matter where you start. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.